Democrats' political lies are now literally breeding mental illness. Yeah, they keep making up problems. They keep themselves up at night worrying about these made up problems. I mean, shit, we had one sad instance actually after Orange Man got elected. This one far left psycho Minecrafted his entire family to spare them the pain of living under literally Hitler or whatever. Yeah, they're literally insane. And all these far left media outlets and celebrities and social media platforms with their selective censorship, they're all complicit in this. Yeah, most Democrats seem to be getting over last week's thumping well enough, but a horrific fraction seem to have bought into their leaders' irresponsible apocalyptic rhetoric, and are damaging themselves, their families, and even their children. Yeah, this is the one I was talking about. The most obvious case is Anthony Nephew, Minnesota, a man who apparently Minecrafted his wife, ex-partner, and his 2 sons before Minecrafting himself in reaction to Orange Man's victory. Now, when are the far left media and celebrities going to be held accountable for radicalizing this guy? They want to keep holding random YouTubers account for radicalizing people just from telling them the truth. When are they going to be held accountable for radicalizing people with their sensationalist lies? Doesn't make any sense. Yes, he evidently had a long-standing mental health issues. We'll never know how much of his final crisis came from marinating for years in the extremist, hateful rhetoric now common on the left. Yeah, I have never seen a more hateful group of people than the modern-day far left. And they claim to be the tolerant and loving side. But there's some connection. Why else did Democrats from Puppet Brandon on down call for lowering the temperature after the first attempt to assassinate Orange Man? I think it was fear. Like, crap, we failed to take him out. Oh shit, quick. Let's de-escalate before there's retaliation. That's probably what it was. Too bad the whole party quickly returned back to fascist and end democracy, and not to mention Nazi and garbage. And pushing outright lies about abortion, their other main issue this year. Yeah, it's really sickening. Like, it's all the same lies they told the first time he was in office. And none of that stuff happened then. But this time, for sure, it will. We're not just over-exaggerating. Yeah, thankfully, as we've seen recently, there at least are a noticeable amount of people that are starting to realize that these guys are just nuts. That maybe we're the ones in an echo chamber. Gee, I wonder if anyone was telling you this all along, huh? Hey, for the record, no state bans aborting in ectopic pregnancy. None of them criminalize having a miscarriage nor a surgery to save the mother's life. Every hospital in America is legally obligated to treat a woman suffering complications after taking abortion pills. All the folks spreading misinformation to the contrary, including obscenely health professionals and so-called journalists, are sickly, endangering the lives of vulnerable women. Well, I think we need to be very selective in who we call a health professional. Doctors whose only job is abortion are called healthcare professionals. The yet rank hateful distortion is now routine for Democrats. Back in current year -3, recall Brandon was raging about Jim Crow 2.0, the Georgia voting law that has now seen 2 straight elections with record turnout. So Major League Baseball still owes Atlanta an apology for pulling the All-Star game over that. I don't know if Atlanta really cares that much. I look up baseball of all the sports. I think that one might be suffering more than the others from lack of younger viewers. And the mainstream media's loss of basic fact-checking standards puts fuel on the fire. Remember, CBS Evening News led a nightly newscast the other week about the outright lie that Orange Man threatened Liz Cheney's life. Yeah, so like that whole story was pretty much, if you're so pro-war, why don't you enlist and go fight instead of sending other people to go fight for you? Like that's not exactly what Orange Man said, But that was the gist of what he said. And as per usual, the left was like, "Oh my God, that's a death threat." And you wonder why I don't take anyone seriously when they claim to have received death threats. Unless you actually show proof, I'm not going to believe you. Panel after panel on Communist News Network, not MSNPC, features contributors foaming at the mouth at how people voted for a convicted felon who says he'll be a dictator and use armed force against his domestic opponents. All bogus talking points about Trump. Yeah, they just repeat the lies until they start. Dude, they believe their own lies before the people they're trying to convince. Like that's what's so funny. Like they're looking out at us and the general public going like, "Why don't you believe our lies? How could you not believe us?" They are the modern day flat earthers. They really are. The general public tunes it all out. That's why Orange Man still won the national popular vote. But some still believe it. Yeah, like the guy that murdered his whole family. And are now emoting on social media about how they've cut off all ties with their MAGA parents, children, or whatever. No, I don't really think this is a bad thing. I can see why the author of this article might view it that way, or a few other people might view it that way. But I think it's if you're the type of person who would cut off a relationship over something like this, I'd rather not have a relationship with you going forward anyway. So you're pretty much doing me a favor by removing yourself from my life. I'm not really going to miss you. Your family, and you can't find something agreeable to talk about? No, of course not. How can I even be in the same room with someone who literally voted to take women's rights away? That's pretty much their reasoning. Now, add into the liberal moms that Bethany Mandel rightly scourged in Saturday's Post, real people and unfortunately real parents who have decided to inflict severe emotional distress upon their children as some kind of political virtue signal by needlessly inflicting Trump as Hitler propaganda on their kids. Yeah, like that's the real tragedy there, when all these mentally ill lunatics start brainwashing kids into believing that if Orange Man gets elected, he's literally going to Minecraft them all. So now these kids are in fear of their lives because they believed their idiot parents and teachers. So this unhinged hate takes all manner of forms. On The View last week, Whoopi Goldberg seriously announced your grocery bills are what they are because the folks that own the groceries are pigs. It's all them evil big businesses price gouging you guys. It's totally not our bad policies. No, Heels Up Harris and Brandon know better. That's why they're moving on as leaders do after any lost election. Brandon, even with a big smile. Yeah, they're all buddy behind the scenes. And all the Democratic operatives who went along with the campaign of hate, fear, and lies know it too. They made their bucks doing their best to try to win, despite having no real issues, using tactics that have become routine for their party, and confident that most of the press would play along. Yeah, and most of the press did play along, but where they screwed up was that they didn't consider that most of the population would stop trusting the press. Most people know the media is nothing but a bunch of lying fearmonger misinformation spreaders at this point. Indeed, most Democrats still believe Orange Man colluded with Russia to win current year -8, even though the entire Russiagate fable in the end rested entirely on stories made up under an opposition research contract from the Clinton campaign. Yeah, that's another thing he needs to do. Every FBI agent that signed off on that blatant lie, they need to be investigated. So the New York Lies and Washington Compost split a Pulitzer Prize for amplifying that disinformation. But it's those evil YouTubers that are the problem, right? Unlike the so-called disinformation experts who demand vast censorship apparatus to supposedly purify our information spaces, we believe in free speech, including freedom to tell outright lies, subject, of course, to libel laws and related penalties. If we banned telling lies, every politician would be in jail for life. Every one of them on all sides is a career liar. So they may want to be very careful when they're campaigning against misinformation. The best answer, the only practical answer to untrue speech is true speech. Yeah. Uh, you should know the flaw in that, given that this is the article you're writing. But when you're dealing with an indoctrinated moron, it doesn't matter. Like you could show them the truth to their face, and they will still deny it if it goes against their ideology. Like sadly, there's a lot of people that are just too far gone. I don't think there's ever a way to recover them. So, but if that true speech can and must include calling shame. So shame on Brandon Harris, the Obama, CBS, and the lies and all the rest for nothing but short-term partisan ends. You've been sickening the minds of good people whose only mistake is to trust you. Some would call that natural selection. It's a sad thing indeed that so many of our leaders think nothing of poisoning the American mind. Well, they do whatever it takes to win, even poisoning their own constituents. As long as they win, that's all that matters to them.